and verse 10. It says, "And they took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beasts. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians." Magicians and upon all the Egyptians. And so these boils, I think we mentioned last time, the boil is when it like pops up, and then the blain is kind of when it erupts. It turns into an open sore rather than a boil. And this was very. It wasn't necessarily life-threatening, but it would get somebody's attention. I mean, just look at Job, and he was struck with boils from the head all the way down to the feet, and it would get somebody's attention, sure enough. And the magicians, they're not able to stand up against Moses because of it. Verse 12 says, "And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh." This is the first time that the Lord hardened his heart. Before this, his heart is hardened. He hardens his heart. The results from the magicians hardens his heart. But this is the first time that God hardens the heart of Pharaoh. And, the Calvinists point out that, well, God hardened his heart, therefore God decided beforehand whether he was going to be saved or lost. That's not what it's dealing with, first off. And second off, it was already after he had hardened his heart and wouldn't listen that God stepped in, and God still does that today. When we reject God, it's 2 times harder to accept him the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time. And so we even have that problem still today. Turn back to Exodus 7 and verse 3. Notice that God already knows what's going to happen. Verse 3 says, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart." So God knows beforehand what's going to transpire, but Pharaoh hardens his heart countless times, and we've been through those where Pharaoh hardens his heart. And there in 7:22 it says the heart of Pharaoh's heart was hardened. But the first time the Bible comes out and says that God hardened the heart of Pharaoh is in 9 verse 12, and it clearly says that at that point the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had spoken unto Moses. So Pharaoh, he's pretty stubborn. I mean, after all of the miracles that's already been done, and after even saying, okay, I'm going to let them loose, and trying to compromise and trying to come to agreement, then after the boils, and the funny thing is he can see the division that God's put between Israel and Egypt, because the Egyptians gets from, I think it was the third plague, the Egyptians gets all the other plagues, and the Israelites are free from the plagues. And so he set a division between his people and those of Egypt. Verse 13, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Now remember, last time Moses said this, Pharaoh turned around and said, Thus saith Pharaoh of Egypt, you're going to, produce as much as you produced in times past. Here God comes back telling him once again, this is the Lord God of the Hebrews. He's the Hebrews is God. He's not Egyptians' God, because they've rejected him. They've hardened their heart to him. So he says, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Verse 14, For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. Okay, so he's going to send, it says, his plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and your people. Not on the whole earth, not on, the whole earth, but on the Egyptians, because they're to blame. Just compare, if you would, Revelation 16, and we'll be coming back here, but just look at Revelation 16. Verse 1, And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, Go your ways, and pour out the vials. Remember verse 1, the seven angels go your ways, pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image. And so here is this sore being poured out. In Exodus 9, we have the boils and the blains, the sores that's being poured out. And I mean, it all lines up with what's going to take place in the tribulation time upon the earth. Here it's focused on Egypt, because Egypt is in the Bible a type of the world. And let's see. Just hold your finger there in Revelation 16. We'll come back there in a little bit. Exodus 9, verse 15. For now I will stretch out my hand, that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. Okay, so
pestilence is like pest?
Yes, it's plagues. Plagues, pestilence. It's like the Black Plague, and things like that. Um, and this is what happens. I mean, God sends these plagues out. And all of this is because he would not hearken to the word of the Lord. God even today, in a spiritual note, God even today tells us, obey me, if not, this is going to happen. That's why I think, we should be obedient to God, because he gives us the results, or the chastisement. He tells us what it's going to be before it actually comes. He says, either believe on the Son, and ye shall have life, or he that believeth not on the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. And so he tells us up front what is going on. But notice how it says in verse 15, "For now I will stretch out my hand." There's no question whether he's going to stretch out his hand or not. He knows what, because of the choices that Pharaoh's already made, he's already decided. He's, we could say, predetermined. If you don't do this, then this is what's going to happen. And since Pharaoh's chosen that, then he says, "I will now stretch out my hand." And the scholars of today, they normally change that to say, "For now," let's see.